Consider this thought. If the distant past had been forgotten, and those academics by whom we are given our reconstructed version of history had made mistakes along the way, and our idea of history was flawed, would you know about it? Unfortunately, the more time and money are poured into certain historical paradigms, year after year, the more difficult it becomes for our historians to consider new ideas that challenge the established model. But what if evidence compels you to change your mind, even if the scholars do not? Remember, they are not infallible, and you have your own powers of discernment. What will you believe? Our history is far different than we've been taught. The evidence is everywhere, if you know where to look. And what if the ancients were far more sophisticated, and had far more advanced technologies than we presumed? Whether of human or extraterrestrial origin, we cannot be certain, but it seems clear that advanced tech existed in the ancient world. We'll look at one strong evidentiary example here. There have been artifacts found all over the world, whose purpose remains a mystery to scholars, including the Egyptian disk of Sabu, the Scottish carved stone balls, and the mysterious Greek Antikythera mechanism. Little known to most people is a passage from a... Excuse me. Sorry, what's going on? I'm actually recording. Who are you?
Listen. They told me to be here.
But this is my gig.
I disagree.
My contract with the Great Awakening School states that I'm the sole narrator for all the...
I don't know what to tell you, girl. They tell me come, I come. And this is about my country, so it's kind of my territory.
I need this gig. I've got bills to pay.
You're not a real person. You don't have to pay shit.
I don't have to take this. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, you hag.
You don't have a lawyer. You aren't real.
Okay. I mean, what the fuck?
Bye-bye. Where was I? Oh yes, little known to most people is a passage from a famous, sacred Indian text, the Mahabharata. This text is one of the two major Sanskrit epics of ancient India. In this text is very clearly described an ancient technology, which is familiar to most people in our modern day. What is this technology? Listen to this passage. What does it sound like to you? A single projectile, charged with all the power of the universe. An incandescent column of smoke and flame, as bright as 1,000 suns, rose in all its splendor. It was an unknown weapon. An iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death, which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Vrishnis and the Andhakas. The corpses were so burned as to be unrecognizable. The hair and nails fell out. Pottery broke without apparent cause. After a few hours, all food was infected. To escape from this fire, the soldiers threw themselves in streams to wash themselves and their equipment. It should be obvious to anyone who has learned about the after effects of a nuclear blast that this passage describes one perfectly. Hair and nails falling out, contaminated food and drink, pottery falling apart, people needing to wash themselves. For ancient people, to list all the usual evidences of a nuclear blast simply by chance is mathematically impossible. This is not a work of fiction. Skeptics will argue against such an idea. Yet the director of the Manhattan Project, Dr. Oppenheimer himself, was a believer, having read these ancient texts. And in fact, Oppenheimer learned Sanskrit specifically to read this book. Reportedly, he quoted a certain passage at the time of the famous bomb's detonation. He quoted, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." At the ancient site of Harappa, there were a number of anomalies which all point to nuclear blast. There were signs of a blast from one central location, with debris trails pointing outward in all directions from the epicenter. Melt glass was also found at the site, different from man-made glass in its form, which can only result from sand being heated to around 1500 degrees Celsius. Beyond these points, higher levels of radioactivity are also present at the site. These anomalies have been found at a few sites in India and neighboring countries, most notably at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro in Pakistan. The presence of nuclear technology in the ancient world is indisputable. The only question is whether you will be able to accept it. The scientific and historical establishments will not catch up for many more years. But what will you choose? Once again, it is clear that we have forgotten crucial chapters of our past. We are, as Hancock has said, a species with amnesia. Let us continue to learn about our forgotten past together. What was it that took place here in ancient India? What was being described in the Mahabharata? Perhaps the true details will always remain a mystery of mystical India. Thanks again for watching and for being willing to look